So we're coming in here, you can see the breeze is coming down the wall, and we're going down from the top of the screen, and we're going to this ladder sort of the top of the picture. Now we're quite close to the wall here on our way in, so we're sort of a boat width away from the wall, which gives us limited manoeuvring options, and it causes a bit of an issue a little bit further up. So if we see now when we freeze frame, well, as you look at the engine now, you see it's pointing into the wall, which means that when we apply the forward power, we're then going to be the back of the boat is going to be sliding into the wall. There, slide, 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 a little bit of bow thruster to correct, but that's the back of the boat there, getting really, really close. And that's all caused by being too close to the wall to start with. If we then look at how we come away from this, you turn the wheel in, a little bit forward, click, you can see the prop wash there, and then straightening up and reversing straight out. Now I'd want that engine to be perfectly straight. At the moment, you're still turning a little bit to starboard. We want it to be straight and a little bit more reverse. So then we put the power on now, you can see the boat accelerate, and then you start to swing. But ideally, the engine would be directly into the center of the boat before you apply any of that reverse to come away from the wall. But then we've swung away and we're all nice. There we are. Okay, next one here is when the breeze is coming down the wall. So here we are. Breeze is now coming down the wall, so we're approaching with the breeze is going to be behind us. So we're turning in really nicely. You can see the ladder at the bottom of the picture. Turning in nicely. Again, we're now quite far away from the wall, which is much better than in our previous image. So we're coming in. A little bit forward, the bow starts to turn around. Again, we've got loads of escape options here, which is nice. There's a whole lot of nothing going on at the moment, but then a little bit forward, a little bit of turn. Boat turns around. Now the engine starts to be moved over to that port side. You engage the reverse to slow the boat down, and then that brings that back of the boat round. As you can see, it's starting to rotate now. Boat's now stopped, move forwards on the wall. I like how you've taken the steering to central now, so the engine is centrally in the boat, because you're not wanting to pull the back of the boat in anymore. Now a little bit of bow thruster to correct, which will then squirt that bow in. There it comes. And again, we're sat here with a little bit of stern attitude, which is probably caused by not taking that lock off quite fast enough, but a really nice coming into alongside there. Okay, here we are, anchor in Port Erin. So what I wanted to show you here was the angle of the anchor line from the bow. So you see it's coming out really horizontally, coming out quite far. The reason for that is because what you got is you got your rope, then you got your chain, and you got your anchor. Now your anchor's stuck in the sand. Then you've got your chain, which is going to be on the bottom, keeping it aligned, and then the rope, that's giving you the freedom to move up and down, and you're pulling that back. So here in this little picture, you see you always want that chain on the bottom, and if you don't have enough out, then you're just not going to get the movement up and down. So you see the boat's moving up and down here by probably about a meter or so, and you don't want to be lifting that chain off the surface of the seabed itself. So what we had was good. Okay, so this is us in Port Erin now. This is us taking the lines off, so rigging to slip. Now this is me with it in my hand, and I remember passing it to you. Now it's always best here, if you've got a crew member, I'm now running up to take the other one off, so it's always best just to put a loop around a cleat, just so it's ready to slip. Then you go to the controls so you're ready to drive the boat. I know there was a little bit of miscommunication here. I didn't quite tell you what I was wanting and after. But so now I'm rigging the stern line to slip around that bollard, which means that I can then release all the other lines from the dock. So we tie that one on there. You've tied the one on the bow. It just means that the boat's ready to slip and these lines are ready to go. You can then have control of the boat, and then I can then run around. It's not going to take me a long time to take these lines off, and I can do it safely from the boat. So here we go. I come out. You've asked me to take the stern line off. So there we go. That's the stern line done now. Oh, maybe not. There we go. Now's the stern line being done. So stern line comes off. and then move to the bow, rotate out. So here I'd be looking for the engine to be moving to starboard like it is. I pull this off, and then I'm looking for, I'd be hoping for a load of astern here to take the back of the boat away from the pontoon, away from that jetty. However, we've engaged a little bit of forwards there, and that's going to mean that we then have our pivot point is severely reduced. Now you can see the swell coming off the steps there, so that's going to be pushing your bow out a little bit. But you can see any kind of forwards taking that back of the boat really, really close to to that pontoon there. So what's happened is we've turned the engine into the slipway, into that jetty, and engaged forward, which has pushed the back of the boat towards the bottom of the picture into that pontoon. Whereas ideally, we would have been going in astern to take the boat away from there. Remember, at this point, the wind is coming from the bottom of the picture, so it's pushing us off. Although behind that jetty it was fairly negligible. We've come away safely, however, it would have been much, much nicer to have reversed away from that wall. You can see from this picture just how close we got. Okay, here we are coming in now. So we're looking at an area sort of in between, at the bottom of those, that second set of steps. And we're coming in a little bit too shallow here. So as we come in, we're going nice and slowly. I like the approach. Turning away from the wall slightly to square the boat up. Load of reverse to slow the boat down. Really, really nice. Come in a little bit too much reverse, which has swung the back of the boat in. We've gone bow thruster there. And then your hand comes out here to push the boat away. Now, your hand should be nowhere near the wall, mate. Your hands should be on the controls. So it was caused by coming in. We used a little bit too much reverse, which has swung the back of the boat in. Then we've got a little bit of bow thruster there to bring the boat down again. This would have been much, much easier if we'd gone a little bit less reverse earlier to slow the boat down in a more calm, progressive way, as opposed to one big stop and skewing the boat in. We're now in a pretty undesirable position here where we're kind of reversing into the pontoon without much headway. So hence I'm having to fend off a little bit there. Now you've turned the outboard out and we've started to reverse out in the manner that we like to, away from the pontoon and gaining a bit of more momentum there. So as opposed to how we were, which was reversing into the pontoon. Now you're applying a little bit more reverse, getting the boat away from there and getting yourself re-established for another setup, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with having another go. But as we were reversing out there, if you go back to have a look at the frames as to where the engine was and where you were pointing, we just went reversed with the engine pointing into the pontoon, straight into it. Okay. Now in this manoeuvre, it's a little bit more my fault as how the briefing was. So I would suggest that you come in at 90 degrees to this pier with a bow line to then plop that bow line over the cleats and then reverse back onto it. And I'm not quite sure why I didn't suggest that in the end. However, we're coming in, and your approach is actually really nice for a very good coming alongside. You know, you've got enough distance away from the boat, away from the pier. So here I am. You've stopped the boat really nicely where you need it to be, where you need to. Got the line on. That's fine. I tie it on. Now, this is one thing that we did speak about, and it's how you want that line to be tight at all times. So if we'd have come in at 90 degrees to the pontoon, then we would have been able to reverse backwards, get that line tight, and then pivot the engine around towards the wall and drive us back on that. And you've got to be a bit more confident about keeping that line tight. So here we've reversed back, you've taken the throttle off again, and we've just bounced into the wall. So you don't want a bounce to happen in that line. You want it to be, you want that line to be tight, and you want that to be your pivot point. The fenders are going to do their job. The bow's well fended with 3 or 4 fenders up there, so that's all fine. But here we go, we're reversing back, that line goes tight, and then once again, the throttle's still coming off again. So there, and we're tight. And now, as you can start to rotate that engine round and power on, then we'll start to get a little bit more of that back end coming towards the dock like you're seeing there, which is brilliant. So that's the manoeuvre that we want there. Here we go, pushing it in, pushing it in, pushing it in, and keeping that power on. Now then you let the power off, the boat will spring back again. So we need it to maintain that power, maintain that throttle, so that the back of the boat is being pinned in by the engine, and the front of the boat is with that with those lines tight on there. You can see the moment you release all of that, then the rope acts like a bit of elastic, and it will spring forward to where you don't want it to be. So keep that power on in reverse until that rear mooring line is tied on. Okay, last one here. So you're coming in really nicely and gently, super slow. We're just going for a standard coming alongside here. I'm loving how the boat's now pointing a little bit further along the dock. We're not pointing quite so far to the left this time. We're pointing in sort of almost where we need the boat to be in the end. So you're coming in nice and gentle, a little bit of turn away. This looks good. There we go, so we're putting a little bit more attitude onto the boat there. So turning the boat in. Now that helm's gone all the way over. You've gone a little bit of forward to bring the boat parallel. Now that engine's gone all the way towards the port. You're going to enter reverse, I guess. There we go, to bring that back in. That back of the boat's coming around. You've got a bit of bow thruster on there. Boat stopped. And you can see it's just rotating nicely. That's really nice. And then from there, look how gently that's coming in now. And then from there, you put your bows and stern lines on and happy days. Okay, we left at this point, I think. So I can see the engine turned all the way over. So engine's turned to starboard, so you've gone ahead and forwards. There we go, the boat's rotating around a little bit. You've gone all the way around there to port and entering that reverse. Which then, see, it takes it away from the dock really, really nicely. And it just gains you that, I don't know what, 600 mil of just separation from the dock, which just means that you're not going to crash into it. The moment you reverse away, you're reversing away, you're taking all of your dangers with you, which is great. That was really, really nice. Hi Steve, that was a bit weird doing all the feedback to camera. It's a bit like being in lockdown again. So I thought that was really, really positive. I think the aspect looking down provides a big insight into how the boat's moving with certain inputs. You can see where the engine's going. You can't necessarily see the thrust that well, but you can see the inputs that you're putting in, and hopefully I've explained it as you've been going along through, and you can follow it through with my commentary over the top. Bow thruster makes a massive difference. I think quite often we're still using it a little bit too much, so sometimes we're getting the bow that's bouncing in too much. And like we spoke about on Tuesday, it's having that. There will be a delay to its effectiveness, so it'll go brrr, and then the boat will start to move. But it's a big boat that is trying to move. The key thing again is thinking about where your engine is pointing, and to whether you're going forwards or reverse, and where your danger areas are, where you're going to be taking the boat to and from. So if I turn that way and apply reverse, is the bow going to be clear, or is the stern going to be going in? So a couple of times you could see I was trying to fend off, because especially they berthing like bathing platforms at the back were getting really close, and a lot of that was because we were exiting in forwards, or we'd come into the berth a little bit too close. If we'd have come in, I'm all backwards here, a little bit more of a steeper angle, then there wouldn't be that element. But hopefully we can have another look through this at another time when we're on the boat together, and we can talk it through and maybe see if we can do it in a different way. But I quite liked doing that with drone. Let me know how you thought it was, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.